Hello, everybody. It's Lenny Murphy with one of our interview series, and we are doing a special series today of, well, for the next few weeks on women who have made a massive impact in the industry. And I can't think of a person who exemplifies that more than Kristin Luck. Kristin, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being back on your program.
Always a pleasure. As we were talking about before, it's been too long, and how long we've known each other. We were just commiserating on, wow, we're getting old, and we've been in this industry together for a long time. So, or at least I am. But Kristin, you still.
Long time. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we were saying we were both on the 30 under 30, and now we're pushing 50.
Well, I'm past it now. I'm past it now. So, yeah. But we've grown into ourselves, right? We're fulfilling our potential. So.
Yes.
Yes, which is a great segue. Think about fulfilling potential, right? I mean, your story of, so we met when you were at OTX, right? Well, the co-founders at OTX.
Yeah, I think I was 28 at the time.
Yeah, so you have done so many amazing things since then, from OTX to Decipher to Wire to, ScaleHouse, and now running for president of SMR. Just good Lord, if there's anybody who has made an impact in this industry, it is you. So let's talk about that. Talk about that journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting journey because I feel like I've made a lot of career twists and turns. I think I started out.
Sorry, kids are home because of ice. That's my 12-year-old Marilyn. Anyway, please go ahead.
To the future of women who need things off the future.
Yeah. do we want to stop and start over, or do we?
Totally up to you.
You know what? Let's roll with it. So,
okay.
Guys, here we go. Welcome to the new normal. All right.
Kristin, the new normal. I have a little dog jumping up on my lap. Your daughter's walking through. I was on a call the other day where a private equity guy got decapitated by a sword by his son partway through the call. Not literally, but he came up with a sword and at his neck, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot going on this call right now. Your story. I've had, much like our talk today, I've had a very interesting career path. I started out in traditional research and at Lieberman in Los Angeles. And I think that, the key for me along the way is always that I've been really guided by my curiosity and things that I thought were interesting. And I've been really fortunate that those things that I thought were interesting turned out to be pretty lucrative. I was really very interested in online research early on. Was lucky to join AC Nielsen at a time when they were just deciding to build their first online research platform. Determined pretty quickly that AC Nielsen was not a great place to build a startup, and left with my business partner at the time, Shelly Zalis, and built OTX into, and was the fastest growing research firm in the world in 2002, 2003. I mean, back then I was much younger and I could work 24 hours a day and not skip a beat. I'm not sure I could do that now, but I think certainly the things that I'm passionate about have really guided where I've ended up going in my career. And from there to starting Forefront, which was a data visualization platform, and from there joining Decipher to take them into the software licensing space, and and since then I've been consulting and advising. I think one of the exercises that I go through every time I'm going to make a career transition is to really think about all the things that I really love doing. Like, what are the things that make me the happiest, and what, if I could spend my entire day doing something, what would it be? And after the exit from Decipher, it was really, gosh, if I could just work with other founders all day long and help them scale and monetize their businesses, like that would be the most fun that I could have. And from there, it also made a lot of sense for me to get my investment banking license, which I did almost 3 years ago now, which I would never have imagined in a million years. If you had told me when I was at university that I was going to be an investment banker, I would have said you're crazy.
And congratulations, by the way. I heard that the recent Focus Vision Confirm It deal, that you were behind that. So
yes, I sit on the board of Focus Vision now. We're very excited. Obviously we're in this antitrust period right now, but we're confident that the merger is going to take place, and I'm excited for what the future holds for the combined companies.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. It was kind of one of those, deals when it was announced. So anyway.
It's interesting, the reactions have been pretty varied. I've had some people like, ooh, wow, that's kind of weird, and others that really understand the synergies between the two companies and the opportunity. Sure. And particularly if you look at some of the other companies in the space, Qualtrics, when their IPO just hit, they had a $27.3 billion valuation. I mean, that's unheard of in this industry. So I think the two firms are better together.
I would agree. Now, buy a sample company, you've got the whole value chain. So,
right, exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk later. No, that's fast. That's awesome, and I think you and I share that. This other part of my business with Gen 2, right? That just helping people.
Yeah.
My kids ask me, "What do you do, Daddy?" And I help people. At least I try to.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is where the fulfillment comes from. And speaking of which, then, so let's think about your kind of nonprofit work, right? With Wire and now with SMR. So I mean, Wire has grown tremendously, right? Really a force to be reckoned with in the industry now.
Yeah, we've got over 11,000 people in the community worldwide now, if you can believe it.
Really that big? Wow.
It's crazy. It's crazy. This is one of the lessons that I try to impart on other entrepreneurs, which is sometimes you have to let go to grow. There were many years when I was doing everything for Wire myself. Mm-hmm. I held on to it really tightly. I ran all the events myself. I was flying all over the world and running events. I was sending all the emails to my personal email. I mean, it was bananas.
Yeah.
And once I started letting other people take the reins and entrusting that the women in each market understood the mission of Wire and what we were trying to accomplish, and I was able to hire somebody to run marketing. Then I was able to let go of some things and really focus on what I felt like I was good at, which was creating community and the mission behind what we're trying to do, and do some strategic partnerships. And SMR has been one of those partners for us. And that came about actually, I think even before I was involved in council, or maybe right when I went, for people that aren't familiar with SMR, the board of SMR is called council. So I joined council 6 years ago. So I've been on for 6 years, the last 2 as vice president. And that partnership has been very, really important to Wire in terms of our global expansion. Okay. Yeah, so I think we're like we're on every continent now, which is, except for Antarctica, I think.
Well, yeah, so far, right?
So far. Stay tuned. It's next. Yeah, and I think the last year, it's interesting. The last year, I think, has been amazing in a lot of ways for Wire, because for the first time, people were able to attend events in different markets and kind of go where they wanted to go based on content versus based on location. Yeah. Which has been a super interesting learning experience for us. Yeah.
The shift to virtual certainly has been interesting. A lot of benefits, right? That not being locked into location, but different business models, obviously, in trying to think through all of those. But no, that's fantastic. So now in this partnership with SMR and you being on council, you are standing for president. Again, I'm not an SMR member, but and I may break a rule here, but you'd have my vote, and I would encourage everybody else to vote for you as well. So there's the plug.
Appreciate that.
Because you'd be the first American in a long time. When?
Yeah. Gunilla, I believe, was living in the States when she was president, at least part-time. Okay. She was living in Florida. But yeah, it would be, regardless of, there's 2 women running for president, myself and Sophie, who's our treasurer currently. So regardless, we're going to have our first female president in, that's awesome. Close to 12 years. Yeah. And I think there's only been 2 female presidents in the entire history of SMR. So it's an exciting time regardless of who wins. But yes, traditionally, what's been interesting about SMR is that although we're a global association and the US makes up, I think 56% of the global research spend now. And if you look at the Americas combined, certainly the largest spend region in the world. And yet we've been very traditionally underrepresented on council, less than 10%. And I think some of that relates to SMR SMR's roots, which were as a European association, but that's changed for some time now. And I do get some questions from folks saying like, oh, well, it says SMR's based in Amsterdam, and like, how would it work with a president on the west coast of the States? And my response to that is, it has to work, because if we're really a global association, then we need to be able to support members all over the world, and that means Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Africa, Nigeria, Nicaragua, like anywhere in the world where we have members, we need to be able to support and service them. So
yeah, well, and have we learned that in 2020? As we just mentioned, right? Decoupling from location. So I mean, we've all adapted in a variety of ways where we're not geo-specific anymore. The fact that you're in Bend or I'm in Atlanta really is largely irrelevant to our businesses. So
it is. Yeah. Although I do miss the travel, I'll admit that.
I know you do. But here's a virtual hug, Kristin. So
thank you. Yeah, I'm a hugger.
Yeah. And I do too. Hopefully we'll get back to something like normal second half of this year. I think that's what we're planning on, is by the fall. I don't think it'll be a while before we get back to the scale of live events and live interactions that we were at this time last year.
I agree.
But I think we'll get back. So, and begin that process later on this year. So, so if we think about the future then with the SMART presidency and Wire and all of your ScaleHouse.
Yes.
I can see where all that fits from a supporting the industry going forward, but I'd love to hear your vision of what you would like to achieve, how these various aspects of your life and your business can synthesize to add value.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think we're in a time of intense transformation in the industry that's, in large part driven by this pandemic. If you look at the projections for industry growth over the next couple of years, most of the growth, again, is coming from the digital and tech sides of the business. And that's not to downplay the importance of full service research. I think it's as important as it ever was, but I do think a lot of businesses were hit very hard by this pandemic. Like yourself, I've got a decade of experience building and scaling businesses. My firms survived the .com crash, the economic recession back in 2007, and now a pandemic. And so I've got a lot of experience navigating rough waters during turbulent times, and I'm hoping to do the same for SMR, and certainly we've achieved that with Wire. And I've also, I think a little known fact, I've also served for the last 6 years on the board of the SMR Foundation, which is SMR's nonprofit arm that serves researchers in need. And when I first joined the board, that that entity was largely reliant on SMR funds, and we've transformed it into a self-sustaining entity, and John Kieran runs the foundation now. So, so transformation is kind of my specialty in many ways. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
I also think when I think about SMR, and also about Wire and my own business, we truly live in a global society, and we need to be able to support and sustain members or community regardless of where we are on the continent. And then, bringing younger researchers into the fold. I know you and I have talked about this before, but I think one of your startup competitions at IEX have been really fundamental in that, and like bringing new ideas, new technologies, new people, younger ideas, new thinking into the business is super important. And then, we really have to open our arm to data scientists, behavioral data firms that, maybe we've been a little scared of or reluctant to embrace in the past. My feeling is always, hey, don't push these things away because we're nervous about them, or we don't understand how they work, or they don't necessarily follow the same rules that we do. I think our role, and particularly SMR's role as an association, is how do we partner with these firms so that they understand the importance of data ethics and respondent privacy and all of the things that are so important to us as researchers. I think it's important to bring those folks into the fold.
Yep, no, agree wholeheartedly. That's always, I think we're, my own small way, what we've tried to do with Green Book to be that top of the funnel to,
Yeah,
bring these companies in and now hand them off to,
right.
SMR, Inside Association, whatever the case may be, right? The appropriate
Yeah,
organization, where
yeah.
they can be brought into the fold more appropriately. So,
It's actually been a great deal for SMR. I mean, a lot of the folks that I met at IEX events in that competition are SMR members, and some of them are my advisory clients now. So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, no,
it's
well,
great.
good. Well, the synergy, Kristen. So the
Synergies.
so I want to be conscious of time, for both you and for our listeners, because Lord knows you have a lot on your plate,
Yeah.
as we just laid out. Um, you know, so think about, let's do with this final thing. So SMART presidency is 2 years, right? If I'm
2 years. Yeah.
okay. So we think about a 2-year time frame, whether it's as SMART
Yeah.
president or as not. Um,
Yeah.
what will you think? What will you call a success in 2 years if you can accomplish? What does that look like for you?
For sure. Membership growth globally, for sure, and particularly in markets like Africa, Latin America, Asia Pacific, where we haven't, where we, I think, struggled to grow membership in the past and to really get people engaged. And again, I think that goes back to this idea of making the association a bit more global in nature. Definitely seeing a growth of our younger members and getting them more engaged and involved in the association. And I think also making sure, again, that we're expanding the remit of SMR so that we are more inclusive to these new types of companies that are coming into the business. We want to make sure that we're maintaining our relevance, and that as research evolves and changes and we have some of these new players coming into our ecosystem, that we're really embracing them and bringing them into the fold versus sort of trying to keep them at arm's length. And these are a lot of the business challenges that we've worked on as a council for the last 2 years. And to your point, 2 years is not a lot of time to get these things done, and that's why it's important that there's some consistency in terms of making sure that the initiatives that we started are carried through, and that they've been really maximized, which is challenging when you're changing an entire council every 2 years.
Yeah. Now, what about you personally? So 2 years. What's a personal goal that you think, because you've done so much. So what's next for you?
If I think about personal goal, like it's interesting. I've lived for the last 8 years, I've lived part-time in the US and part-time in Greece, but I've never actually lived overseas full time. So originally my goal for 2020 was that I was gonna move to Athens full time for a year. And then I was gonna spend 6 months in Paris learning French, which I've always wanted to learn. And then of course this pandemic changed this pretty significantly. So I think that the role of the 2020 has taught us is that you can make all the plans in the world, but the world may have other plans for you. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think the key for me is I always want to be learning new things. So I'm always reading, or like I'll read an article and it'll give me an idea of something new and different I want to do, or I'll read about a new place to visit. And so I mean, for me, I'm dying to get back on an airplane. I know many people are not, but I'm going to squeeze back into my work pants and hit the road as soon as I can.
Well, and by the way, the new idea, one of the few newsletters that I look forward to are your ScaleHouse newsletters, because there's just always so much great stuff in there. So listeners, if you have subscribed to Kristin's newsletter via her consultancy, ScaleHouse, you should do that, because it's always provocative and interesting and pretty damn funny too, most of the time. So your sense of humor comes through all of
My
that.
major in journalism has paid off, Lenny. My parents would be proud.
There we go. All right. This has been fantastic. Let's not wait another couple of years before we do this again. So
no,
please.
Of course not. Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully, SMR elections are next month. On what date? When is that?
March 1st. Yeah,
Okay.
And then they're
March
open
1st.
So if you're an SMR member, keep an eye out for your ballot, and please vote.
All right. So our next conversation, I'll have to call you Madam President then. Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
All right, Kristin, be well, take care, and we'll talk soon. All right.
See ya.